Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom to you, hopefully elect of Israel. You Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians. Gotta give all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Give honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the occupied, pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, waking up the hopefully elect. Shalom to the Aqua for listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming at you with another lesson of truth, fact, faith, and edification. And this is just an update on things that are playing out around the world, mainly wars and rumors of wars. So Lord's willing to be edifying.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Dina Cameron here, and for today's broadcast, I do have some breaking news I'd like to bring to you in regards to the United States, Russia, China, as well as Israel, Syria, and Iran. And in fact, I'd like to start with Israel first. The Times of Israel is reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned Iran that Israeli warplanes can reach anywhere in the Middle East. Netanyahu stated that lately Iran has been threatening Israel with destruction. They should remember that these planes can reach every place in the Middle East, including Iran. And of course, also Syria. The F-35 jet is not believed to have an effective range to reach Iran unassisted, but it could conduct operations there with in-air refueling, a capability possessed by Israel's Air Force. Air Force Chief Norkin stated last year that Israel had used the fifth-generation fighter jet in operations in the Middle East, and at that time, Norkin did not specify in which countries the aircraft had been used. Israel has long seen Iran as its greatest threat, while Iranian officials regularly threaten to destroy the Jewish state. On July 1st, a senior Iranian lawmaker said Israel would be destroyed rapidly if the United States attacked the Islamic Republic. He said if the U.S. attacks, only half an hour will remain of Israel's lifespan. A former Iranian defense minister stated that our missiles can totally obliterate Israel's bases. Israel knows that Iran will erase its entity and uproot it from existence in case of a war. Netanyahu, in the meantime, has issued a series of statements against Iran in recent weeks. On Sunday, the Prime Minister called an announcement by Iran that it would exceed the uranium enrichment cap set by the Troubled Accord, a very dangerous step. He urged European countries to sanction Iran in response. As tensions continue to soar between Israel and Iran has made more threats towards the United States, threatening to sink U.S. warships and destroy military bases. An Iranian commander stated that American bases are within our range of missiles. Our missiles will destroy their aircraft carriers if they make a mistake. Americans are very well aware of the consequences of a military confrontation with Iran. His words are the latest threat following Iran warning the U.S. it faces a sea of blood in the Gulf. Meanwhile, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that the United States has hammered out a plan under which an international military coalition would safeguard strategic waters off of both Iran and Yemen, where Washington blames Iran and Iran-backed fighters for attacks. General Joseph Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stated that we are engaging now with a number of countries to see if we can put together a coalition that would ensure freedom of navigation, both in the Strait of Hormuz and in Yemen. And so I think probably over the next couple of weeks, we'll identify which nations have the political will
They ready
to
out there,
support that
man.
initiative. And then we'll work directly with the militaries to identify the specific capabilities that will support that. So it definitely seems that the United States is preparing for something and not taking any chances. And as always, I will continue to keep you updated. However, I would like to move on and talk about a phone call between Netanyahu and Putin. The Times of Israel is reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the Russian president on Monday to discuss Syria, Iran, and other issues, according to the statements from the two leaders' offices. The Russian statement said that President Putin invited Netanyahu to Moscow to participate in celebrations to mark the 75th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War, World War II. The day will be marked in Russia on May 2nd, 2020. But the call was initiated by Netanyahu, who took the opportunity to express condolences for the death of the 14 Russian sailors. It goes on further to report that the Russian statement said, the two discussed Russian-Israeli cooperation on the Syria issue, following up on the trilateral meeting of national security advisors from Russia, Israel, and the United States on June 25th. In particular, the importance of further coordination between militaries. A short statement from the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem stated that the two men discussed Iran, Syria, and relations between the countries. The phone call came as Iran announced that it would consider going to 20% or higher uranium enrichment as its next step in rolling back the commitments it made under the 2015 deal. Israel has long sought Russian backing for its demand that Iranian forces leave Syria upon the conclusion of the country's civil war. And it's also important to note that Iran is Russia's ally, as is Syria. In fact, earlier this month, after Israel struck targets near Damascus, Russia condemned the Israeli airstrikes in Syria, saying such attacks grossly violate Syria's sovereignty. Also adding that this escalation evokes extreme concern that such actions have the potential to destabilize the region. Russia has managed to maintain close relations with Syria and Israel, despite tensions between the neighboring countries throughout the Syrian civil war, as Russia's military supports Syria. And speaking of Syria, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that Syrian ambassador to the UN Human Rights Council called on Israel to withdraw from the Golan Heights and swore that his country had a right to recover that territory from Israel. He said, "We demand accountability and call for impunity to be combated. We condemn the decision of the Trump administration, which is illegal, regarding the occupied Golan. In doing so, the U.S. has also flouted UN Security Council resolutions. We need to put an end to the actions of the occupation, which is confiscating land and pillaging resources." Syria opposes the Israeli government practice to hold meetings on the Golan and its decision to create a new town named for U.S. President Donald Trump. He also said that such steps are provocative. The U.S. has encouraged the occupying power to perpetrate further war crimes. Our country in no way recognizes any of the administrative measures taken by the Israeli occupying power in the Syrian Golan. Syria reiterates the sovereign right to recover the occupied Syrian Golan up to the line of June 4th, 1967. Syria also calls on Israel to withdraw from the occupied Lebanese territories. It goes on finally to report Israel captured the Golan Heights during the 1967 war and annexed it in 1981. But this year, the Trump administration recognized its sovereignty there, explaining that the territory is vital for Israel's security. Those are definitely some fighting words coming out of Syria. And with that said, I don't see Israel letting go of the Golan Heights anytime soon. So this could definitely escalate over time. And as always, I will continue to keep you updated. However, I would like to switch gears and talk about what is happening between the United States, Taiwan, and China. RT News is reporting, as well as many other sources, that apparently the United States will sell military equipment to Taiwan. Washington has given a green light to supply Taiwan with $2.2 billion worth of U.S. military tech, including tanks and surface-to-air missiles, in violation of the One China principle that views the island as part of the mainland. The Pentagon announced on Monday that the State Department has made a determination approving a possible foreign military sale to Techro for the M1A2T Abram tanks and related equipment, and support Stinger missiles and related equipment, and support for an estimated cost of $2 billion. The purchase, which still needs to be approved by Congress, includes 108 units of the M1A2T Abram tanks, which Taipei plans to use against China if it tries to reclaim sovereignty over the island. The Pentagon maintains that the sale will not influence the basic military balance in the region and will merely enhance Taiwan's ability to meet current and future regional threats and to strengthen its homeland defense. Beijing, however, made it clear that it will battle any outside meddling and attempts to split Taiwan from the mainland China, stressing that the country will not rule out the use of force to do so. China's defense minister stated at a security summit in Singapore last month that any interference in the Taiwan question is doomed to fail. No attempts to split China will succeed. China firmly, consistently, and unequivocally opposes the U.S. arms sales to Taiwan. In a separate statement last month, China's defense minister warned Washington against inflicting serious damage to bilateral relations and peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Stern warnings coming out of China, and it doesn't seem that the United States is listening very well. However, we shall wait to see if Congress will approve this next move, and I will definitely continue to keep you updated. I just wanted to bring you guys a quick report.
And no, North America they have too much pride, man. But all this, when you look at all these different things that's going on in the media about wars and rumors of wars, all these things is leading up to a peace agreement, man. Okay? A peace plan. See, all these things, it's a part of prophecy, which is wars and rumors of wars. But what is actually leading up to is them establishing a peace plan, man. Okay? They have to push a peace. They have to push these wars and rumors of war, which is prophecy. That's why the Lord say these are just the beginnings, man. Okay? These things, wars and rumors of wars and famines and earthquakes, these are just the beginning of them. These are the beginnings of the end, man. So they have to push all this media, these elites propaganda to bring about the peace agreement, man. This peace plan that they're going to bring all nations together. They are already together right now. When you look at the UN, man, see what you people got to understand. When you look at the UN, every nation is in the UN, man. Okay, they are already joined to the EU and NATO. Okay, in North America, they are all joined together, man, in alliance, man. Okay, they are all allies. So these things is to have people deceived on, the Russians, the Edomite Russians against the North American Russians, and the North American Edomites are against the Chinese and the Japanese. No, man, they are all together, man. Okay, and what these things is doing, okay, which is our prophecy. Everybody got their back and forth because they're sick of North America being the bully on the schoolyard. Every nation is sick of North America being a bully, but you got to understand they are all controlled by the elites, man. Okay, this is the elites propaganda, man, because they're trying to establish a peace agreement. Okay, and then they're gonna push the chip out of that, man. When they say we are all together in peace as one unity, okay, one world government, then they're going to push that one world currency, man, which will be the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast. So all these things is leading up to the one world government, man. Everybody joined together. We all had our differences, but we are all together now as one.
The first parts of the Russian-made S-400 air defense systems arrived in Turkey today, and our government, the United States, is not happy about it. Russia's most...
Then you got, what is Edomite saying? You got Trump talking about creating a space force. What Putin said, the same thing, man, about creating a space force. For what? Because they all nations are going to try to shoot missiles at Yahushua when he returned with the angels and the chariots, man. So you see, man, all these things, man, if you don't have that third eye, you won't understand what's really going on, man. Okay, these things happen every day with news and one nation against one realm against another, man. But really, they are all joined together, man.
Global launchers can strike targets nearly twice as far as the ones that are made in the United States, which is part of the reason that they're such a hot commodity. But military experts are now saying the real reason that countries like India, for example, are buying in is because, well, it's about half the cost. Half the cost. Think about that. And then there's Turkey. It's especially troublesome for the West because it's a NATO member buying from Russians, who NATO originally was designed to combat. What does this prove? It proves that the world is getting very confusing these days, or maybe just very different. RT correspondent Yulia Shapovalova has more.
Ankara says it has received the first deliveries of equipment for Russia's S-400 anti-aircraft system. They arrived at one of the bases near Ankara.
We've always said regarding the S-400s, it's an agreement that's been finalised and the process continues to progress. We're coordinating these things. Permission for flight, permission for personnel will be coming.
Russia's defense ministry added that remaining S-400 components will be delivered within the agreed time frame. The systems are planned to be assembled in Turkey, with reports suggesting they will be operational by October. The deal between Moscow and Ankara was signed in 2017. It's reportedly worth $2.5 billion. It's the first time a country from the NATO bloc acquired an anti-aircraft missile system from a state outside the alliance. This immediately caused an extremely nervous reaction from Washington. American politicians began demanding that Turkey cancel the deal with Russia and agree a new one with the United States instead.
So many of us have tried to dissuade Turkey from taking the S-400. It is so important in our alliance that there isn't a new Russian defense put in the middle of our alliance and affects the interoperability of our defense systems. However, everything that we have seen in the paper recently or seen in the press has indicated that Russia is going to deliver this S-400 to Turkey, and that will have consequences.
The Pentagon said it would stop teaching Turkish pilots how to operate the latest F-35 fighter jets, and they threatened that if Turkey did not reject the S-400, it would not be able to get 4 F-35s for which it had already paid. But Turkey's President Erdogan did not give in. Later, at the G20 summit in Osaka, at negotiations with the Russian leader, he said that the agreement with Moscow on the S-400 remained in force. By the way, at the same summit, his American colleague Donald Trump admitted that he himself believed that the US didn't treat Erdogan fairly.
He wanted to buy the Patriot missile. President Obama's group said no. He kept wanting to buy it. They kept saying no, no, no. Couldn't buy it. Now he needed it for defense. He needed it. So he then went to Russia and he bought the S-400. He paid him money, a lot of money, put up a lot of money. And he bought it. As soon as he bought it, people went back to him from our country and they said, listen, we don't want you to use that system because it's not the NATO system, etc., etc. You know all the reasons. We don't want you to use that system. Do us a favor. We'll save you the Patriot. He said, it's too late. I already bought it. There was nothing he could do. He already bought it. But honestly, I'm all for our country, but he got treated very unfairly.
Now experts believe Erdogan's stubbornness will not go unnoticed, and sanctions against him will certainly be imposed either by Trump or the US Congress. Such threats have been made before too. Ankara will probably just ignore them. Just to remind you, the S-400 Triumph is a modern long-range air defense system designed to destroy aircraft, cruise and ballistic missiles, including medium-range missiles. It can also be used against ground targets. It has a range of 400 kilometers and is capable of destroying targets at an altitude of up to 30 kilometers. Yulia Shapovalova with the news of Rick Sanchez.
See, all this, man, is just preparing people to get ready to take the RFID microchip, man.
British foreign policy, presided over by the putative Prime Minister Jeremy Hunt, is in a state of chaos and collapse, and that's before you even begin to calibrate the wreckage left by his predecessor, one Boris Johnson. The latest are the letters from Washington. It's said that a diplomat is a man sent to lie abroad for his country. Whether Britain's ambassador to Washington was lying or telling the truth about the absolute wreckage of the presidency of Donald J. Trump, if you're going to write to London a string of ad hominem vulgar abuse, you better make sure your communications are secure. Secure they were not, and they ended up on the front page of the Mail on Sunday, and the British ambassador close to being declared persona non grata. It's as if Britain, having decided to leave the European Union, has simultaneously decided to make enemies everywhere else in the world. And of course, these letters are only the latest. The extraordinary act of international piracy off Gibraltar by the Royal Marines, at the behest, one must assume, of the British foreign policy. Unless you think the government of a rock decided to put itself into the middle of a giant geopolitical crisis, you must assume that Jeremy Hunt ordered the government of Gibraltar to seize an Iranian oil tanker bound for Syria. We have no oil sanctions against Iran. Neither does the EU. While the EU has oil sanctions against Syria, they have never, ever implemented them. No tanker bound for Syria has ever been boarded by pirates before at the behest of an EU government. This, laying ourselves now open to retaliation from Iran, is pregnant with terrifying dangers for another international crisis in the Persian Gulf, with Little Britain, which hardly has aircraft to put on its aircraft carriers, right at the centre of it. Not content with falling out with Iran and with Syria, we're also busily baiting China over Hong Kong. Hong Kong that never should have been British in the first place, that was seized, squeezed from China as punishment for them refusing to allow us to sell heroin in China. Yes, that's how we came about ownership of Hong Kong. Well, as Deng Xiaoping told Prince Charles as long ago as 1999, the days when foreign countries can give orders to China are over. Yet the British are deeply involved in the events, riots inside the Parliament building in Hong Kong, even hoisting the old colonial flag. Britain is in very real danger of making itself an international pariah, hated by the remaining members of the European Union, now represented in Washington by someone that Donald Trump will not even speak to, and picking a fight with China. With China and Russia? Are you serious, Mr. Hunt? You're certainly not a serious candidate for Prime Minister of this country.
That's some more showing you, hey man, these Edomites, man, is all media propaganda, man. Okay, now, he tell you that in Obadiah, that the nations have brought them here to the border, and they that ate their bread with thee have deceived thee and laid a wound under thee. But first, they're going to bring a peace agreement, man, to push the RFD microchip, and then come war.
Germany. Wait, let me do that again. Germany. That it needs to send troops, something in my voice, I guess, into Syria to go up against ISIS. That's right. You, Germany, you have to send troops to Syria from now on. That in and of itself, right? That in and of itself should be newsworthy. Think about that. After all, Germany is a sovereign nation. At least the last time I checked. Its military does not answer to us, right? Can we be ordering Germany's military to go fight somewhere? Apparently so. But the real irony of this development may be the fact that of all the countries in Europe, Germany is the one who was least responsible for the mess that the U.S. and the Brits, yes, us and the Brits, and some others, caused in places like the Middle East. For example, the invasion of Iraq. Yet Germany is receiving the brunt of the refugee crisis that was caused by the war that they didn't really take part in. And that's interesting, right? Because it's ended up misplacing millions of people, and many of them have gone into Germany, and you probably know from the stories you've seen here on this network the problems that are being caused in Europe with the populist movement as a result of that. This is kind of a smart conversation, but today we hear this news, right? That the United States is telling Germany, hey, you got to send your troops into Syria. Joining us now is Michelle Greenstein, our NRS correspondent, to kind of explain it. Let's start with the premise that the United States is essentially telling a sovereign nation what to do with its army. That's weird, no?
Right. It's maybe weird on its face, but it's definitely not news. It's definitely not anything new. The U.S. has definitely been doing that for a while. In fact, Trump himself has long been calling for Germany to increase their defense spending. You may remember that one of his main campaign promises was to get the rest of the NATO countries to do their part. Why is the U.S. doing all the work? We're going to get the rest of them. We're doing too much work. So that's definitely been a talking point for him as well. But on Sunday, the U.S. Special Representative to Syria called for Germany to deploy troops to northern Syria. His name is Jim Jeffries, and he says that he wants these German troops to actually replace U.S. troops so that we aren't paying as much of a price, but now Germany will probably take that over. He also says that the U.S. expects an answer on this within this month, within July. Now, Jeffries says that the Syrian local forces wouldn't be doing any combat on the ground. They wouldn't deal with this on-the-ground combat, but they would supply air support and training, and this would, of course, serve two objectives. One is to weaken the Syrian government, because the Syrian government would be doing most of the on-the-ground combat against ISIS, and also, of course, to lessen the casualties that we see coming from the West.
What, by the way, is the German reaction? Because I would imagine that Germany, being a proud, independent country with a longer history than ours, by the way, probably would not take so kindly to the United States telling it what to do with its military, right?
That's a good question. The reaction is certainly mixed. Today, Germany said that it currently has no plans to deploy any on-the-ground troops to Syria, but let's not forget that Germany is already involved in Syria. We have a lot of non-combatant military support, such as surveillance aircraft, some jets like their Tornado jet. But there are a bit of internal politics going on here. We have the Democratic Party, the SPD, who gave a clear rejection of this, saying that, under no circumstances would Germany deploy ground troops, and they're joined by the Greens, the Free Democrats, and the Left, which is the furthest left party. But the Christian Democratic Union and their coalition, they say that we shouldn't be so quick to reject this request from the U.S., which makes sense. They're the further right party, both fiscally and socially.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I mean, if you look at this, it's a smart problem to try and analyze, because on the one hand you have the culture wars going on in places like Germany right now because of the populist movement that's very anti-immigration, which has to do with what we're talking about right now. You also have Trump basically blasting the Germans for taking Putin's natural gas when they could they should be paying more to take ours.
Right, they aren't buying as much U.S. natural gas.
And then you also have the conversation about the fact that we were told, I think 3 or 4 months ago, that ISIS was already eliminated and gone.
Right.
So, I mean, with all these things going on, it's hard to put your arms around this thing.
Right. So to your first point that you said in your intro to me, like, who are we to tell foreign countries what to do with their defense spending? Here's what the former chancellor said. He might agree with you. He said, I'd have liked the federal government to tell him, meaning Trump, once or twice that it's none of his business. This isn't a banana republic over here. So that's the SPD, the more center-left party, the main rival of the CDU and the CSU. But to your question of whether or not ISIS was defeated, yes, last year Trump literally declared victory against the Islamic State, right, and he ordered that withdrawal of U.S. troops. But we're still seeking the support, the U.S. that is still seeking the support from its allies, and that includes Germany for this anti-ISIS coalition, which is why many say that this war on Syria, the so-called civil war, let's think about it. Who has it hurt? It's killed hundreds of thousands, right? It's displaced millions of Syrians, and the U.S. is supporting these Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups to weaken the Syrian government. So who has it hurt? It's hurt the Syrian government, right? Which is why many say that this whole anti-ISIS coalition has really been a front to actually weaken the government of Syria in any way possible, and it certainly has been successful. And another point I'd want to make is if our intention is truly, to weaken ISIS, why is it that we've just renewed oil sanctions against Syria? Meanwhile, ISIS has been allowed to export oil that it stole from Syria all the way to Israel. So there are a few contradictions there.
Yeah, and there probably will continue to be for quite some time, no matter, by the way, and in fairness to Donald Trump, no matter who's in office, because it didn't start with him. And it probably won't end with him.
And what didn't start with him is selling a war using a humanitarian narrative. That's definitely not a Trump thing, but he is continuing it.
Well said. Thank you, my dear, once again, for another great report.
Thank you, Ray.
Now, this Edomite Trump is trying to put sanctions on everybody, man. Okay? Putting sanctions on everybody, man. Just like the guy George Galloway said, he done lost count on how many countries that North America has put sanctions on. Now, this is Trump with his latest sanction proposal on another
going after
country.
another Asian country after a barrage of assorted attacks on China that seemed to kind of backfire and cost U.S. corporations tens of billions of dollars, as we have been reporting. The U.S. noticed that while we were going after China, Vietnam was making out big. It was essentially picking up all the business with the U.S. that China was leaving behind or losing out on. So what happens now? So here's what happens. The U.S. is slapping Vietnam with tariffs. Essentially a 400% excise tax is what it's called. It's going to cost Vietnamese billions of dollars in its economy, at least according to some. Vietnam appears to be the latest beachhead in the Trump tariff wars. But to what end? To what end? Joining us now is Jock O'Connell. He is an international trade advisor at Beacon Economics. We thank you, Mr. O'Connell, for taking time to join us. You know, it seems like every time we see a country doing well somewhere in the world, we hit them with sanctions or tariffs of some kind. And guys like us who, you know, aren't necessarily economists, we wonder, well, what's really the end game with this type of strategy? Can you help us with this?
Well, this is a puzzling thing. If you look at the numbers, the largest number here probably is the 400% headline figure for a tariff increase. Mm-hmm. If you look at the numbers, and this is a tariff that will be applied very restrictively. It's not an across-the-board tariff on all Vietnamese exports to the United States. It applies to steel and iron products that originated in South Korea and Taiwan. Those are the two countries that allegedly have been funneling exports of steel to the United States through a minimal use facility in Vietnam and then shipped on to the United States to avoid a tariff that the Obama administration initially imposed about 3 or 4 years ago on those two countries. Now, if you look at the sum total of the figures involved, all of the exports of iron and steel products from Vietnam to the United States represent less than 2% of all Vietnamese exports to the U.S. Those exports run heavily to such things as furniture, household furnishings, apparel, and footwear. Way down on the list is iron and steel. So, I mean, Vietnam has a growing steel industry, but mostly for consumption. It's a fast-growing economy. It needs to build things. It needs to generate the steel. It exports very little or a very small percentage of its steel. So the question is, why is Washington so concerned about this sliver of a percent of trade that it's doing with a country in the Far East? And
because it tell you in Habakkuk, man. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. It said, "Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as deaf and cannot be satisfied. But gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." And that's that problem, man. Okay, it say, "Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long?" Okay? They cannot be satisfied, man. So that's what they do, man. They cannot be satisfied, man. And when you go to Micah 2:2, it reads, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and take them away, so they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage." That's what they do, man. Okay, in the last videos I was playing, showing you that they're gonna push this peace thing, man. And Trump trying to push a peace. Him and Kushner right now they going around to the Middle East trying to push this peace deal, man. So this is Isaiah chapter 31, verse 3. "Now the Egyptians are men, which today the Egyptians are the Edomites, and not God. and their horses flesh and not spirit, meaning they don't have the power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. Okay, they just flesh. Their horses is flesh, meaning their power that they have, man. It's just flesh, man. They don't have no power. Okay, see, and their horses flesh and not spirit, meaning they don't have no real power, man, like the Heavenly Father. Okay. When the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is hopping, the word hopping, Holpen, meaning strengthen, and he that is strengthened shall fall down, and they all shall fail together. Meaning all these heathen nations, okay? They all shall fail together, man. But these Edomites, mainly these Edomites. So I had 1 Thessalonians. I'm gonna read this before I finish this. So this 1 Thessalonians, because they're trying to establish a peace deal, man. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So that's what they're trying to push, man. Okay, because you got this devil, Trump, and his devil son, Kushner, going around to the Middle East trying to push this peace agreement, man. Okay, this peace deal. So this is Ezekiel chapter 7. It says almost the same thing as 1 Thessalonians 5 and 3 say. Ezekiel chapter 7 and verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Okay? And so when they push that peace agreement, hey, destruction gonna come, man. Destruction gonna come, because the Lord saying in 1 Thessalonians, they shall seek peace and safety, but it shall be none. But destruction shall come upon them like travail upon a woman with child. So Ezekiel say, destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. So they're doing all these things, man, so they can bring together all the nations with this for this one world government, this one world order, man. And then they gonna push the RFD chip to everybody, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. Okay? And then the Lord said destruction gonna come, man. Because it ain't gonna be no peace, man. But this is prophecy that they gotta do all these things that they doing in the news every day. Wars and rumors of wars every day. This going on and that going on, and everybody can't get along. Okay? It's just like you got a bunch of kindergartners at school, and every kid in the classroom is fighting each other, man. Can't nobody get along. But the teacher steps in and say, listen, everybody gonna have to sit down and be quiet, or everybody getting a whooping. So basically, what does that do, man? That make all the kids calm down for a moment. But guess what? Soon they get on the playground, hey, they going back at each other next, man. So this is what you see going on, man, okay? So Trump trying to step in and say, hey, we all can get along. Let's do this. Let's make a peace agreement. Which controlling Mr. Rothschilds, man. So they can bring about the peace deal, man. That's going to bring the RFD microchip. And then war going to break out. Because this is the prophecy of Yahweh Shah.
So you'll have to think, well, maybe is this Donald Trump's belated effort to take a swing at the Vietnamese that he passed up on 50 years ago because of a near fatal case of bone spurs, or something else going on here? And what I think is happening here to some extent, and this I think goes well beyond Donald Trump's comprehension, is that the United States, there are people in the United States government who want to fire a warning shot to all of the countries that may benefit from the departure of industry from China, and it's going somewhere else. So we can conduct a trade war with China and impose tariffs on large ranges of products that they send to us. But what happens if those companies that are manufacturing the goods, and they're not all Chinese, I mean, there are lots of international companies that have invested in building manufacturing platforms in China, in the low-cost areas of China, in order to serve global markets. So, but over the years, and we've been watching this phenomenon now for 10 or 15 years, companies are finding it more and more expensive to manufacture in China. Wages are going up, land costs are going up, they're competing for labor. They're all looking for cheaper places to manufacture goods, typically the low-cost, low-priced consumer goods that we buy in great abundance. So they're moving. They're moving to places like Vietnam. They're moving into Malaysia and Indonesia. They're going around into the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
They're in Bangladesh. They're in India. They're in Sri Lanka.
But you can't stop that. That's gonna. I mean,
No,
that's why they call Vietnam the little China. Whatever China can't do or doesn't want to do, we'll get it. We'll be more than happy to take on that business, right? And if it wasn't Vietnam, it would be somebody else.
Rick, let me tell you a story. Around Thanksgiving time, 2007, I was in Hong Kong and I had some meetings with Chinese manufacturers. They had facilities up in Guangdong province. They were doing quite well. But they all told me that they were looking at establishing manufacturing facilities in East Africa.
Wow.
So this whole process of businesses migrating from low-cost manufacturing areas in China, as manufacturing became more expensive to do there, is shifting gradually to other parts of the world. Vietnam, with that shares a border with China, is an immediate beneficiary of this.
So, hey, Chuck, and I'm going to stop.
So are the Southeast Asians.
I would stop you for a moment just to ask you a question before we run out of time, because I also want to get the Americans' perspective on this. If I'm an American steel worker, should I be jumping for joy right now that this thing happened because I'm going to get my job back, or I'm going to get in more hours at the plant, etc.? Because that hasn't been the case so far with the tariffs on every other country, including China. In fact, most U.S. corporations have lost money.
Well, you're right. I mean, the steel industry, contrary to what the president might think, has not benefited from the imposition of tariffs on steel imports into the United States. But in the case of Vietnam, the volume of import is so small that it's almost inconceivable that this would have an impact economically within the United States.
Well, Jock, O'Connell, and Shakespeare both said it best when they wrote Much Ado About Nothing. Thank you, my friend. Interesting talk. Can't wait to have you back.
Now you see, the title of this was Trade Wars Without Borders. And what does the scripture say, man? They shall bring thee even to the border, man. Okay? Okay, Obadiah 1:7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Okay, these devils, man, they don't understand that they are being set up through the power of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, man. And they are going to fail miserably, man. Now you got this devil trying to put sanctions on Vietnam now, man. Okay? Because of the business that they are getting or going to get, man, from China and possibly other places, man. So these Edomites, man, they are as hell. Their desire is as hell, and they cannot be satisfied, man. They want rulership over everything, man. That's why they say they're gonna make everybody take the already microchip. Okay, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, man. It don't matter because these devils is greed, man. Greedy, man. That's why I say their riches are corrupted and their garments are moth-eaten, man. Their gold and silver is corrupted and their garments are moth-eaten, man. And so Lord's will is edifying. Got to give our praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Makakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone, rule well, teach well. And since his salutations, all the ark and pushing his truth like four winds of the earth. Hey, there will never be no peace, man. These Edomites, what does Revelation 11:18 say? He will destroy them who's destroying the earth, man. And who's destroying the earth? These Edomites, man. Because all they want to do is take, man. They want to take and keep taking till there's nothing left, man. Shalom.